explosive in the world at that time. The officers initially thought that the cache must belong to a criminal group such as the Camorra or the Ndrangheta if it did not belong to the brigades. But the C4 baffled the investigators. The mafias and the brigades relied on explosive made of jellianite. C4 was an explosive that was used almost exclusively by NATO and US forces. C4 is military, that's for sure. Yes. A week later, more arms were found in a nearby cave. This second discovery prompted General Gerardo Serravalle, the commander of Gladio and Italian military intelligence, to order the dismantling of all the arms dumps in forests, meadows, church basements, and cemeteries throughout Italy. In addition to explosives, the dump contained portable arms, ammunition, hand grenades, knives, and daggers, 60 millimeters mortars, several 57 millimeters recoilless rifles, sniper rifles, radio transmitters, binoculars, and various tools. The weapons were removed from the 137 burial sites. 137 burial sites. And transported by the Secret Service plane Argo 16 to the Gladio base in Sardinia. So Gladio didn't only have a base in Sardinia, they had a concentration camp. They had the concentration camp for communists. So if you were a communist and they discovered that you were a communist, you were automatically taken to the concentration camp. Especially if you're an activist, if you were active and talking about things. So yeah, the aircraft exploded in flight on November 23rd, 1973, and may have been sabotaged by aggrieved gladiators. This suspicion gained credence by the fact that Serravalle was supposed to have been a passenger on the plane. So the reason is because Gladio or gladiators, whatever you want to call them, are known for murders and assassinations. So they target people who speak. They target people who, for example, we saw this in pages before. There was this guy who was trying to investigate a death and he was killed. And then another guy tried investigating his death and he was also killed, died under very weird circumstances. So targeted assassinations, at a certain point in Italy, they killed 5 people a week. Gladio killed 5 people a week, an average of 5 people every single week. And Gladio is actually, this was said in the beginning page, I already skipped that, but it's called the American Holocaust. They have at least killed 6 million people across Europe. That was the estimate in 1987. The estimate today is way beyond that. Exactly, they're CIA mercenaries. In 1990, Serravalle told the press that he had been shocked to discover the extremist views of those in his command. I found myself an officer in the service of the Italian Republic at the head of an armed band, he said. The caged bird sings. In 1984, after 12 years of intense investigation, Vincenzo Vinciguerra, a leader of ON, was taken into custody and questioned about the Petiano incidents. After confessing in court that he had planted the car bomb, Vinciguerra said, "With the massacre of Petiano and with all those that have followed, the knowledge should by now be clear that there exists a real-life structure, occult and hidden, with the capacity of giving a strategic direction to the outrages. It lies within the state itself. There exists in Italy a secret force parallel to the armed forces, composed of civilians and military men in an anti-Soviet capacity that is to organize a resistance on Italian soil against the Russian army." And not the Russian army. He's actually talking about communists. That's what he meant. A secret organization, a super organization with a network of communications, arms and explosives, and men trained to use them. A super organization which, like in a Soviet military invasion, which might not happen, took up the task on NATO's behalf of preventing a slip to the left. Okay? Slip to the left. So their entire point is to kill leftists, basically, because they were winning elections. Whether they were, they were winning them in a legal way, but The right doesn't care, right? To the left in political balance of the country. This they did with the assistance of the official secret services and the political and military forces. So it's important to say that the reason why there have been stay behind armies in Europe, or at least the excuse that was given, is that they needed them um, in order to fight a potential Russian invasion, right? A potential Russian invasion. Though that never happened. So what they started using them for was basically killing and disrupting leftist movements within Europe. Okay, so following his conviction and sentenced to life in prison, Vinci Guerra, in an interview with The Guardian, said the terrorist line was followed by camouflage people, people belonging to the security apparatus, or those linked to the state apparatus through rapport or collaboration. I say that every single outrage that followed from 1969 fitted into a single organized matrix. The Avanguardia Nazionale, like Ordine Nuovo, were being mobilized into the battle as part of an anti communist strategy originating not with organizations deviant from the institutions of power, but from within the state itself, and specifically from within the ambit of the state's relations within the Atlantic Alliance. Atlantic Alliance, talking about NATO, that's the Atlantic Alliance, probably killed centrists too. Yes, so anybody who, they even killed far right people that were not staunchly anti communist. If you didn't hate communists, nobody would kill you. So, for example, Aldo Moro, I mean, he was also killed to be blamed, but he was killed for literally giving two seats to socialists that won those seats. He was killed for that. And then they blamed it, obviously, on the communists. They were like, no, it's the communists that killed him. But yes, if you're not a staunch communist, anti-communist, you were at risk of being killed. Absolutely. So here, despite the setbacks, including the discovery of the arms dump, the attacks continued. On May 28, 1974, a bomb exploded within a garbage container that had been placed in the midst of Piazza della Loggia in Brescia. The incident took place during a demonstration against the Movimento d'Azione Rivoluzionaria, MAR, yet another neo fascist group. 3 weeks before the bombing, Carlo Fumagalli, a CIA operative and the founder of MAR. So a lot of groups within Europe have been actually founded by the CIA. Like, for example, as I said this before, the Grey Wolves of Turkey, the MAR and the Front National, like another type of group in France as well, have been funded by the CIA, and the CIA put extensive money into making it work and used its people as spies. So, had been arrested for starting a fire at the Pirelli Bicocca tarpaulin depot. The damage was estimated at 1,000 million lire at the time, and a 30-year-old worker lost his life in the blaze. Years later, Gaetano Orlando, a MAR spokesman, admitted the MAR group's plan was that the attack should be put down to the Red Brigades, as in the communists, that's the Red Brigades, to the Red Brigades, which were on the rise at the time. Brescia, where the bombing took place, was the town in which Fumagalli and Abad was the town in which Fumagalli and the MAR had established their headquarters. The Brescia had killed 8 people and wounded 100 more. The attack, it was later learned, had been led by Pino Roti, the founder of ON, who had been another fascist group, who had been receiving regular paycheck from the US Embassy in Rome. An hour and a half after the bombing, the local police chief ordered firemen to hose down the square. This order caused, in the words of examining magistrate Domenico Vino, the possible loss of vital evidence, and aroused alarming questions as to the haste of the operation. Following the attack, a series of anonymous callers to the police and the press attempted to implicate Lotta Continua, Continuous Struggle, a militant communist organization, in the incident. Members of the group were rounded up and placed in custody only to be acquitted due to lack of evidence. Doing exactly everything we can do to send communists to jail and blame them for things. Okay? This one is a very interesting one too. The terror on train. Terror on a train. On August 4th, 1974, another major terrorist incident occurred when a bomb exploded on the Italicus Rome Munich Express as the train pulled out of a tunnel near the village of San Benedetto Val di Sambro. 12 people were killed and 105 injured. This attack presented a reaction to the May 12 vote that abolished Italy's arcane divorce laws. The outcome represented a sharp rebuke to the Vatican and the Christian Democratic Party. Following the election, Gelli funneled black funds to Augusto Gocci, who had commandeered the bombing. When the police traced the evidence to Gocci, he fled with Gelli's assistance to Argentina. 16 years after the incident, Mario Tutti and Luciano Franchi, two members of Gocci's criminals clan, received life sentences for their part in the train attack. By the way, Jelly worked for the CIA at some point and he got money from them. So the master plan. In 1976, Jelly and other P2 officials, so P2 is one of the CIA, one of the CIA's groups, basically one of the CIA's dormant cells, right? And like armies. So in 1976, Jelly and other P2 officials drafted documents outlining their plans for the democratic rebirth of Italy. The plans called for the infiltration and control of all state institutions, all opposition groups, including the Italian Communist Party, the trade unions, the leading daily newspapers, and the national television stations. The drafters of the plan believed that this takeover could be accomplished by the expenditure of 40 billion lire, approximately $250 million in black funds. The overall objective was the establishment of a club where the best level of industry and financial sector leaders, members of the liberal professions, public officials, and magistrates, as well as very few selected politicians, are represented. Men who would constitute a real committee of trustees respecting those politicians who will take on the honor of implementing the plan. The club would implement a series of electoral, judicial, and constitutional reforms in order to make the country more governable. National political life would be subordinated to an oligarchy with no formal political accountability, represented by the secret P2 Lodge. Here, and not in state institutions, decisions would be made. Jelly and his Masonic brothers could pull a string and everything would fall into place. Once the system was established, Italy could be steered in the direction determined by P2's American controllers. Again, P2, despite being based in Europe, is American controlled 100%. The plans, as outlined in the P2 documents, Memorandum sulla situazione italiana, Memorandum on the Italian Situation, and Piani di Rinascita Democratica, Plan of Democratic Rebirth, were found by the Italian police at the Fiumicino airport in Rome. They had been concealed within the false bottom of a suitcase belonging to Jelly's daughter. Also in the suitcase was a top secret US military dossier entitled Stability Operation Intelligence Special Fields that had been published under the authority of General William Westmoreland, the US Army's Chief of Staff. The dossier informed intelligence operatives of appropriate means of response to communist insurgencies. Okay, great. Let's take a break. It's actually 7:01. So I'm wondering if I have to like get out of the stream and then come back. Maybe I should do that, right? Probably. What do you guys think? Talking to mods.